Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Baha Shem Yahweh Shai, Baha Shem Machak Kodash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and wherever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Asherah, Shalom. All right, we can get into the book of Deuteronomy, the 21st chapter. Just jump right into it. So, the NLT says cleansing for unsolved murder. The KJV says expiation of a crime. If one be found slain in the land which the Lord Yahweh thy power giveth thee to possess it, lying in the field, and it be not known who hath slain him, then thy elders and thy judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are round about him that is slain. So, a dead body is found and nobody knows anything about it. The elders come, and what they'll do is they'll measure the distance, from that body to whichever the nearest city is. All right. And then it says, and it shall be that the city which is next unto the slain man, through the measurement that they did, which will be time consuming, because if you think about it, they have to, each part ways, and go towards the nearest city and see how far it was, and whoever was the closest, whatever city was closest to the body. All right, then that'll be the city. So it says, and it shall be that that the city which is next unto the slain man, even the elders of that city, shall take an heifer, which hath not known, a young cow. You see that in the NLT, which hath not been wrought with, and which hath not drawn in the yoke. And in the NLT it says, when the nearest town has been determined, that town's elders must select from the herd of young cow that has never been trained or yoked to a plow. All right. So then the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer unto a rough valley, which is neither eared nor sown, and shall strike off the heifer's neck there in the valley. NLT says they must lead it down to a valley that has not been plowed or planted, and that has a stream running through it. There in the valley they must break the young cow's neck. All right. So when the priest, the sons of Levi, shall come near, for them the Lord Yahweh thy power had chosen to minister unto him, and to bless in the name of the Lord Yahweh, and by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. Now, notice here it says, because it says, where's that scripture? Right here. It says, strike off the heifer's neck. And in the NLT, it says, break his neck. But in the KJV, it's talking about, it says here, hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. But in the NLT, it says, break his neck. But we're going to go with the KJV. So verse 7 says, and they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it. In which case, well, we'll just continue on. Because it's just going into an ancient custom of what needed to be done when you found a random dead body. So it says, be merciful, O Lord Yahweh, unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and lay not innocent blood unto thy people of Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them. All right, innocent blood, because this man is slain. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows who did it. And so that was the how they would go about the situation. And so, and notice another thing here, it says Israel as a whole, because the Lord deals with, nations, which he will, individually judge, but overall he deals with nations as a whole. So it says, and it says, innocent blood unto thy people of Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them. See, T says, O Lord Yahweh, forgive your people Israel, whom ye have redeemed. Do not charge your people with the guilt of murdering an innocent person. See, then they will be absolved of the guilt of this person's blood. So shalt thou put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord Yahweh. All right. Verse 10, it goes on to say marriage to a captive woman. Also in the KJV, it'll say domestic relations. So it says, when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord Yahweh thy power hath delivered them into thy hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among, now we read, I think it's like a couple chapters back, we just read the laws on, wars, on how to go about wars, right? So this is sort of going back into that. If we read on, you'll see what I mean. It says, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, meaning a heathen woman. All right, because you have some Israelites who don't like the idea of having heathen women. Well, guess what? Some of those heathen women are actually going to bring back the nation of Israel in the kingdom. They'll still live regular because they're not going to be changed. They're not going to be special. They're going to live a regular life. All right. And eventually die. But that heathen woman that you're going to have in the kingdom actually brought back one of the Israelites, one of the 2/3 that perished. Okay. So yeah. Um, but that's something, it takes a deeper understanding. All right. The nation of Israel is not just going to, be brought back through the nation of Israel. Because in fact, we don't even need the women of the nation of Israel to bring back the nation of Israel, because the seed line is within the man's sperm. It's according to the father's seed. So, if we have, if not saying it's going to be this way, but just if it was all heathen women, when salvation comes, guess what? The nation of Israel is still coming back through all heathen women. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that way. I'm just making a point. So let's keep going. It says, and seest among the captives, and this is what I mentioned earlier, or not earlier, but just not too long ago, to the previous chapter now, about besieging the city and so on and so forth. Now it says, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife, which, because it's a heathen, she will be a lesser wife, which is known as a concubine. All right. Then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head, pare her nails, cut her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. Which, that's the Lord being generous, because he could have just left that out, but he's giving her a chance, because mind you, her people probably just got slaughtered in a war. Okay, their city being besieged and taken over eventually, and she was sought after before beauty, or whatever the case may be. All right, so you want her, you take her, and then the Lord gives her 30 days to mourn her family, because her family did just lose a horrific battle. So it says, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. After that, thou shalt go in unto her. What does that mean? You're going to go and penetrate her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. And why does it say that? Why does it go from penetrate to husband and wife? Because it's only in today's society where people think marriage is, expensive wedding, which is ridiculous, wedding rings, and all this kind of stuff. No, sex is marriage. Once you cut a woman, all right, she's become your wife. If she's a heathen, she's become your concubine, your lesser wife. But sex is marriage. That's the way, according to the custom, the ancient customs, and that's going to come back when the kingdom is established. But as for now, let's just read. It says, yep, and be well her father, her mother, for a full month. And after that, thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. It doesn't matter if she likes it or not. You took her captive into your household, because her family's gone anyways. All right, you killed all the male, which means the elderly, the men of war, the young men of war, and the young boys, killing all the male. And then you take the women who are not wives, all right, as well as the young girls who are of a certain age, okay? Because once they pass the flower of their age, they become pretty much young women. They're able to bear children. Doesn't mean you may go in unto her at that young age, 13, 14. You can wait till she's 18 if you like to. Whatever, it's your prerogative, right? But these are the ancient customs. We're not telling you to do these things. Hey, those are just the ancient customs. And what we're reading here is you can have heathen women. Okay, that's your God-given right, as they would say. Anyways, let's keep going. 14. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whither she will. But thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her. Meaning what? Because you actually penetrated her, had sex with her. Okay. So because of that, if you decide to put her away, you can't sell her. You can't, like it says here, let's go back and read these two verses in the NLT. Verse 13. and change the clothes she was wearing when she was captured. She will stay in your home, but let her mourn for her father and mother for a full month. Then you marry her, and you will be her husband, and she will be your wife. But if you marry her and she does not please you, you must let her go free. See, now, if this was an Israelite woman, you couldn't just put her away because she didn't please you, because she didn't know how to cook or whatever, or she lazy because when her cleaning, or whatever the case. No, man, you can just do that to Israelite women, and that's why we always mention, the laws for us, all right. But there are certain things in the law, that do pertain to the heathens, okay, because there's certain things that have to be carried out concerning the heathens. But the law was, for us in particular, how we to deal with one another. But there's certain ways that we should also have to deal with the heathens, so those things are mentioned. So it says, but if you marry her and she does not please you, you must let her go free. You may not sell her or treat her as a slave, for you have humiliated her. All right. So going down, verse 15, it has nothing here in the KJV, but the NLT says rights of the firstborn. So if a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated. Now, wait a minute. What do you mean if a man has two wives? You're going off, brother. No, man. Hey, well, Jacob had 4 women. Well, he had the 2 sisters, which now that was according to the story that the Lord had play out, because you're not supposed to take a mother and her daughter or 2 sisters or something like that. All right. That was just for his, situation. That's the way the Lord plays those things out. Okay. But when you go into the law, you can't take a grandmother and a granddaughter, or a mother and a daughter, or sisters, or whatever. All right. You cause a lot of confusion. You're just storing up trouble. But anyways, I was making the point, Jacob had the 2 women and they each had concubines, and he eventually had the 2 not concubines, but handmaidens, right? Servant girls. And then he eventually had both of those servant girls and bare children, the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. So it says, if a man have 2 wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, so he made children with both these women, but the one that he hates had the first child, all right, of these 2 women. Then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he had, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. So you can't, because you love this woman, she had the second son or child or whatever, which is the second son. The hated wife had the first son. The loved wife had the second son. You can't give the rights of the firstborn to the loved wife's son, because he was not the firstborn. Whether you hate or love her, which in this case is talking about the hated wife, she had the firstborn son, and that is still your firstborn son, which goes right along with the rights of the firstborn. So you cannot pass over that hated woman, which really, that's what our women do today. For example, because they'll, you have women that hate their sons because of the father. They'll never tell you, that it was them who was this way or that way. It was them that divorced the marriage, and it was them that, it's always the men, right? But anyways, you get the point. And, our women do that a lot today, where you have, a woman that'll hate her sons because they look like the father or because of the father, whatever. So that's actually a woman-like characteristic there. So if she is the hated wife, but she bear you the first son, he still gets the right of the firstborn. You can't pass it down to the beloved wife's son, because he's not the firstborn, he's the second son or whatever. Verse 17. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion. See? And for the fact that you hated this woman, not only does he still get the right of the firstborn, but he gets a double portion, which I guess really the double portion is the right of the firstborn. Because like you have maybe multiple sons, and the firstborn would get the bulk of his father's estate, but also the other son would still get something from his father. But, so the one who has the rights of the firstborn basically has, by default, a double portion anyways. Like with the tribes of Israel, Reuben, because of what he did with his father's concubine, he was stripped from being the firstborn because he was the firstborn son, and it was given down to Joseph. And when you look at Ephraim and Manasseh, well, they had the double portion. You had the East Manasseh and the West Manasseh, and then you had Ephraim, which is interchangeable with Joseph. So that is a double portion, because they got a lot of land compared to the rest of the tribes. They probably got the most. Well, Ephraim's kind of small, But Manasseh has a big portion of land. So that's somewhat plays into the double portion there under Joseph's name. But let's keep going. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath, for he is the beginning of his strength, the right of the beautiful. Because that's what it says. Oh man, that's what it says about Reuben, the excellency of thy strength. He's the firstborn, but that's other topic. All right, I didn't expect that to be there. For he is the beginning of his strength, the right of the firstborn is his. See, it's his right. All right. Going down, verse 18, it says, dealing with the rebellious son, there's no subheading for the KJV. It says, if a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him, will not hearken unto them. So he's getting out of line. He's been disciplined and he still doesn't want to listen. Then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him out unto the elders of his city and unto the gate of his place. Right, you lay hold of him and get your little, drag him on out and go deal with him in a different manner. Because, you told him he's out of line. You rebuked him, still out of line. All right, we got something for you. Okay. NLT says in such a case, that father and mother must take the son to the elders as they hold court at the town gate. Back in the KJV, it says, and they shall say unto the elders of his city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Glutton, always eating, eating the refrigerator empty, and a drunkard. And no, they didn't have refrigerators back then. I'm just making a point. All right, it says, and all the men of his city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Notice he keeps saying that over and over, because these are basically what you would call life lessons. These are warning shots to the rest of the nation. Like if you have idea of doing this thing that this person just got punished for, well, you see what happened to this person. This will make you think twice about doing that. So this is why you constantly see that, to put away evil from out of Israel, because all Israel will see and hear and fear the Lord. Okay, and they'll think twice. And like, I ain't doing that. I might get stoned. See, all the men of his city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Verse 22 goes on to say various regulations. So other random things, because the law pretty much covers everything. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body, we're at the end. I don't even know. We're at the end of the chapter. Okay. And his body shall not remain, all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. And even the scriptures say, curses he that hangeth on a tree. Which that's one thing, sort of dealing with another topic there. But also, the body's supposed to come down. You're not supposed to leave it hanging. It shows you Esau's a demon, because he would just hang us and leave us there. Body be rotting in the sun and, all kinds of crazy stuff. All right. You're supposed to bring that body down before the sun goes down, man. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that very same day. So before the sun goes down, and you bury him the same day. For he that is hanged is accursed of the highest, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord Yahweh thy power giveth thee for an inheritance. So he's telling you, if you leave a body up there for a day, all day really, because it's supposed to be before sundown, but we'll just say for explanation's sake, 2 days straight, you're defiling the land. All right, NLT 22. If someone has committed a crime worthy of death and is executed and hung on a tree, the body must not remain hanging from the tree overnight. You must bury the body that same day, for anyone who is hung is cursed in the sight of the highest. In this way, you will prevent the defilement of the land of the Lord Yahweh. Your power is given you as your special possession. So there you go. There's a lot of different laws and regulations on certain things in this chapter here in Deuteronomy chapter 21. But, that's pretty much the end of it. So Lord willing, you will edify to next thing. I'm going to say shalom.